got out of the Army, I went to work for one of the local sheriff's office. I retired in 2018. So trust me, stuff I've seen over the years in law enforcement raises a lot of questions about, even with people. How does this happen? You know what I mean? I mean, you got to keep it real. And you can't take everything for granted when you see it. You've got to analyze it. You've got to try to figure out the root causes of what's going on. And when I retired from there, I met my wife, Melissa, when I was in the Army back at Fort Knox. We got married while we were there. And she's in the same mindset I am, as far as you just can't jump to conclusions on everything that you see. Figure it out. William Nighthawk, one of our good friends, has a saying, what does he say all the time? I know what you say.
Yeah.
Know what's known before the...
Well, learn and know what...
Question everything is what he says. You've got to question. And a lot of times when you watch this TV, I ain't downplaying any TV programs, but I learn from them. I get ideas from them. I'm sure a lot of people do. I take it to heart with what they're doing, but I understand it's also productive for entertainment. What we do, we hope it's entertaining, but it's real what Daniel wants to call boots on the ground. It's what we do. There's no fluff behind it. And we try to keep it as real as possible. Maybe get other people interested in the field. Growing up, what got me started in this, my interest-wise, I don't want to date myself here. Anybody here know who Michael Landon was? Great actor. In 57, I was born in 58. In 57, he made a movie called My Teenage Werewolf. When I was I'm roughly maybe 5, I remember me and my mom was staying with her sister at the time. I was sitting on the floor, we were watching this movie, and it just burned in my brain, this situation. We're watching the movie with Michael Landon running around, playing werewolf and everything and whatnot. We heard these footsteps up in the attic. I remember looking up at Mom. My mom looked down at me. She said, Irene says this place is haunted. Well, I jumped up in her lap. We finished watching the movie. The rest of the night was pretty much unaffected. That just burned in the back of my mind. That started as far as thinking about things that are really unknown. Not to the depth of thinking about it now, but it's always burned in my mind. Growing up, early teens, we lived in Evansville, Indiana. One night we had an incident that we can't explain. And I'm going to tell you, more than one people don't see and hear the same thing at the same time to be one's imagination. It doesn't happen that way. But me and my brother, Brian, one of my 4 brothers, was woke up one night about 2 o'clock in the morning where a dog Stretch, little cocker spaniel mix, was in the basement. He was at the top of the stairs. He was raising Cain. He barks at sirens. He had a nasty disposition to where not against people, but against other dogs. Anytime he got loose, if we needed to find him, we just looked for the nearest dog fighting neighborhood. We knew exactly where he was. Okay? But we'd bring him in and I'd put him in the basement. But this one night, he was raising Cain at the top of the stairs, because when you go open up the basement door, you had walls going to match the first level of the house. And then when you get down so far, it opens up into the basement. When he was barking, you could hear it muffle against the wall and then echo when it went down to the basement. So we knew he was at the top of the stairs. Then we heard thump, thump, thump. I've never heard him sound like this before, like he was practically terrified, is the way I describe it. When me and Brian went downstairs, went to Mom and Dad's bedroom, Dad was sitting on the edge of the bed listening to. He told me and Brian to go back upstairs and go check it out. When we went to where the stairs were to go back up to the second level of the house, Dad passed us. When we followed him anyway, we wasn't going to go back up. And when he got a flashlight and opened up the bedroom door. As soon as he got open wide enough, the little stretch was already through the crack. As soon as he get to it, he ran off into the house. When he threw the door open, shined a flashlight, didn't see nothing, reached over, turned on the basement lights. He went down there to walk around. Nothing was down there. Nothing. We can't explain what happened. We don't know what we know what we heard. We know we got a dog reacting. But there wasn't anything there to give credence to what we thought was happening. Me and Brian talk about that. incident over the years when we go back to Kentucky to visit, we're from Kentucky, Indiana area. And, but every time we'd ask Dad, he denied that not even happened. He took it to the grave. I guess he didn't want to be taken out of my corner anymore. Things happen, can't explain. He did not want to go down that path. Same house, everybody know what a croquet set is?
Yeah.
Wooden balls, wooden mallet, yard game. Not all the time, but at random, we'd wake up and you could hear, we had it down in the rack in the basement, you could hear the ball make a clunk, and roll across that concrete floor, hit the ball, bounce, go off a little bit. Seconds later, you hear a clunk. I can't explain that. I wasn't the only one that was hearing it. My brothers heard it too sometimes. It was just a random thing, different hours of the night. Next day, you go down there, okay, sets up in his rack. What's causing that? I don't have the answers for that. That's what we're out looking for. And that's just a couple of things that kept me in. Of course, we was watching movies and stuff like that throughout the years. And trust me, when you're in law enforcement, the military, or civilian life, doing that job, you don't be running around talking about ghosts and Bigfoot and all that other stuff. That's not very career intense. You don't do that. So we just stayed with the programming and stuff like that and watching on TV. Didn't get involved in research. When I finally retired, Daniel had a display set up at the battle at the mall in Harrisburg. And let's say they got a Bigfoot guy there. Gave him a little display there tomorrow. So well, let's go check him out, see what's going on. When I shook his hand, he got to talking. We got hooked. Okay? Now we have the time and the opportunity to get out and do stuff like this. We are serious about it, but we like to have fun. When I first met him, he was pretty much 99.9% Bigfoot. And I understand it. That's what we due to his experience a few years ago. That's what he was after. That's what we got involved with him for that. Several years, we're out doing Bigfoot research stuff like that. I have not seen the big man. I haven't seen some of the stuff that him and some other people seen. I want the day to come when I do. Hopefully it comes. But this one camp area we've been going to for the last 3 years, nothing happened at all for the first 3 years. Last year, while we're out doing Bigfoot research, we had a lot of different things start to happen we couldn't explain. Now this area is primitive. There's old foundations, the homes back here or whatever was built back here in the day. And no power lines around, it's all primitive back here. We started having equipment malfunctions. John and Nick will tell you about that a little later on, we'll get a little bit more into it. We've seen a glowing orb, ball, which is my first time to seeing it last summer on the first camp out during the year. And we can't explain that. I've never seen nothing like that. I've seen it on TV. I mean, you see different images and depictions and stuff like that. But when I seen it first, it was at nighttime. We're walking down a gravel road, heading back towards camp because one of our other counterparts there seen two entities he could not explain in the field where we left him at. And of course, we left him without a radio. He didn't waste any time getting back to camp because when he seen these two entities, eyes shine. And we don't know if they could have been cats. People say we don't have cougars in the area. That could be debatable.
But that incident sent him back to Richmond. He hasn't been back since, so.
He did come back.
No, I know.
But we left him between us and the camp. He was about maybe 300 or 400 yards from camp. But he was in the dark. He was at the end campsite that nobody was at. And then the closest one was about maybe 300 to 400 miles, not that, about maybe 100 yards in the field. The grass was about maybe this tall at random. So whatever he was seeing, the eye shine that he was picking up was above that grass. Okay? And then he seen more eye shine a little further in the distance into the woodline. He watched it for a few minutes. He started walking a little bit and started pacing. He'd stop, it would stop. He'd walk a little bit more, it would follow him again. Now his adrenaline was starting to go because he could not see what it was. And there wasn't any animal small one going up and down.
He did mention that he was hissing too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But then he pulled out a whistle, which we didn't know we had. He tried to blow on the whistle, we didn't hear it. He tried to make it scare it away. but it didn't phase him. And at that point, we got a call on the radio, we keep people back at base camp while we're out with radios. In case somebody gets hurt and we need to get a vehicle, or somebody sprains an ankle, we got to contact back and forth, plus they're watching everything back at base camp. But Melissa gave a call on the radio that Drew came back, just panicking and everything, to see the flashlight be bobbing up and down in the trees and stuff coming. He was coming back at a pretty good clip. I mean, he was paranoid. He normally set his tent up about maybe 50 to 100 yards outside of everybody else. He just wanted to be alone. Well, he got back and we got back to camp. I had to help him pick his tent up and carry it over and put it inside the campsite. Wow. That's how it affected him. Okay? We don't know what he's seen. He doesn't know what he's seen. He is a city boy, I'll give him that. No offense about city people.
He's a real cool dude, though. He's real cool.
But I'm pretty sure anybody, city or not, they can come to some kind of conclusion of what they're seeing is going to be an animal. I would presume. I can only presume that. But anyway, he had that. And once Melissa called us on the radio, we started heading back to camp. And we got to about maybe within 200 yards of where Drew had his situation happen in the field. And as I was walking down through there, I was walking down on the gravel road without my flashlight. I like walking around without my flashlight out most of the time. I had Luna out in front of me, I had her on a long lead. And it was some starlight coming through, you could still see the trees and through some of the trees. And when I came to a little clearing off to the left, I seen this glow about that big, real crisp, round sphere. It wasn't radiating, it wasn't doing anything. It was there. It looked like it might have moved a little bit. When I seen it, about 2 seconds later, I whispered back to Daniel, light. He looked over and seen it, saw the same light, and when he got his eyes on it, about maybe 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds later, it flared up a little bit, went out. But nobody back there. Luna didn't pick up on anything. We didn't hear nothing.
Now, on my presentation, I do have an illustration of that, along with another situation that took place up in Pennsylvania a few years ago.
I can't explain it. I don't know what I see. I had Daniel stay put. I kept my light off. I walked further up the gravel road a little bit to get a different angle on it. And we pulled out the thermals and voltage and pick up any heat signatures, anything like that, to be out of the ordinary other than a little bit left in the trees. I don't know what it was. I can't explain it. I can't sit here and say, yeah, it was an orb from another dimension. I don't know what it was, but it did happen. We seen it. I see it. So that changed my perspective. I really did have a perspective on it. I always seen that on TV anyway. Different people have, and plus there's a history of that back there. Daniel's doing some research on the Shenandoah Valley back there and also that area. There's been past reports of people seeing glowing lights and orbs. Now it has been proven scientifically. You do get gas balls and stuff like that. Some of them come up from the tectonic plates and stuff like that. This wasn't nothing like it. We didn't have any of those kind of characteristics. And again, that was about 200 yards where Drew had his incident about maybe 20 minutes or so prior to the same general location. The fall before that, we had a couple come down from Pennsylvania to stay with us. I showed them where to park at the gate to do that mile walk up to the lake. You got to park at the gate and then walk the gravel road up to the lake. While they were doing that, we went back to finish packing up camp because we was going to leave this was stay another night. And plus we was going to watch the camper until they got back from that little hike. When we got back from the hike, the wife come up and said, well, we stopped by when they got back and was going to say goodbye to them. She said, we seen a bear. And her husband didn't see anything. But she said when they was pulling up to the parking area, off to the left of the road, she sees something dark and tall standing off in the woodland. She got out of the truck and came around the side of the other truck and took off and ran across the road down into the ravine down to the stream bed. She thought it was a bear. Again, her husband didn't say nothing. She did tell her husband about it. Well, he got his 357, put it on his protection. We all carry protection back there for self-defense. Not out to kill anything, but common sense, because you still have the two-legged predators running around doing everything and it's getting worse. But they didn't have any other incident out there. They got back and stopped because they seen a bear and ran across the road. Excuse me. And I said, when they ran across the road, they run across on all fours or two. She said they ran across on 2 legs pretty fast. I said, well, bears don't run on 2 legs like that. They're not built for it. come from hilly area, across the road, spanned about maybe 20 foot into the woods, on two legs, and continue on two legs. Bears don't operate that way. Okay? They don't have structure for it. If they're running from fear, if they're running as a predatory response, they're going to drop the all fours. Now, if they get in a fight with another bear or something, yeah, they can raise up and do a little bit of fighting with them. When I said, that don't sound like a bear to me, you see her face turn and ask her. Her husband looked at her and said, you didn't tell me that. And so we continue on with that story a little bit. She still doesn't want to accept, I mean, I can't prove it, that what she's seen may have not have been a bear. And when we talk about it today, time to time we're communicating. So we had that fall, the light in the spring when we camped up there, with Drew's incident, and then the last camp out last year, we started having electrical problems. I picked up a hum on my radio, on my action cam one evening, and we didn't hear anything while we were out there walking around at night time. I didn't find it until I got the next day when I was going through my auto recordings from a DJI Action 4. Then I heard this hum pick up. First I thought it was an insect. I spent 3 years in Panama. They got some pretty good bugs in there in Panama. Sometimes you can hear them coming a mile away. But it didn't have the same characteristics as an insect flying. Plus we didn't hear anything when we were back there. And they, when it's all primitive, we don't have any power lines back here. I got John back here to explain that he knows more about that stuff, on what that characteristic is about power lines. Some of you may have been around big power lines anyway. You start to hear it when you get closer. As you get closer, the feed gets louder and louder, and the closer you get, you start feeling the energy in your body. There's nothing like that back here for that to pick up. What they let. And plus, I've been reading, I record back there all the time now for 4 years. Never picked up nothing like that before. The next night, I stayed back at the base camp with John and Mary while Melissa and Dan and them went out to do a night hike. And I wanted to see if we could replicate, so I let her take my cam, she put it on her chest. And I'd be doggone, it wasn't in the exact spot, but it was up in that general area right above it. And you faintly hear it again for a few seconds. Something back here is generating something for my action cam to pick up. No other recorders picked it up. It could be the way the frequencies are built to be able to identify that to pick it up. I don't have the answer. But again, I just find it intriguing. That's why we got a few more pieces of equipment back here to try to come up with answers, and hopefully it works out. Electrical issues, they called us, and John was tell us about the electrical issues. What was it? Your radio's going dead and coming back?
Yeah, radios kept going dead.
It just kept going dead. And not staying dead some of them. It was dead for a while, however we'll pick it back up. What's causing that? Years we've been going out there, we've not had this happen before. I don't have the answer, so we've got to camp out coming up in May and see if any of this replicates while we're back there. We camp with good people. We like to go out and have fun, relax, enjoy nature and wildlife, and at the same time we take research seriously. How good they are, when I was back here with John and Mary that one evening while they were out walking, you can't trust what you see all the time. I'm going to prove the point here right here.
He's getting ready to tell you.
Me, John, and Mary sitting around the campfire. They're about maybe half a mile, 3/4 of a mile away from camp up at a campsite nobody was using where an old homestead used to be. And I let them take Luna, so I didn't have Luna back at camp. Took Luna along with them. We're sitting there in the dark, just monitoring the radio and stuff, and Mary says, I see a red light over there. Turn around and look and stuff. I didn't see anything at the time. I said, well, there it goes again. Well, then we get to look. It kept going off from time to time. And then a few minutes later, and when I stood up and was talking on the radio a little bit, it went off again and we seen it. We couldn't figure out where that red light was coming from. And we thought it might be some kind of eye shot, periodically, appearing. So I got to thinking, well, we need to check this out. Mary stayed by the campfire, me and John went walking toward where we're seeing the light, because at nighttime, your depth perception could be thrown off. Something would look far away, but it's closer and closer, it's far away. We didn't turn on any flashlights or nothing, but we started walking from the campfire towards where was in this red light. Me and John, and closer to the end, it kept going off a little more frequent. And finally, we get about maybe 20 yards from it. I remember I had one of my trail cams set up there in camp. I had the glow type. I don't like the glow type, but it's the only one I had. I like the no glow. I set it outside the camp to see if anything came around inside the camp after dark. That's what I had. Well, the next day, I felt like an idiot. I should have known to have a trail cam there, but plus I had Melissa and them back in the woods when we seen that light before we started walking. I called Daniel on the radio. Are y'all walking around? It was too far away, but we had to roll it out. Y'all walking around back here with the red light? And Melissa just hadn't heard. Light, red light on every now and then. I said, well, have we walk around in circles back there a little bit and walk around and see it maybe coming through the trees. It's smoking spots. So for a few minutes, we had her back there walking around like an idiot. But that's before I realized this is my trail cam. You gotta have fun with it too, right? But anyway, I had them doing that for a few minutes so we could rule that out. And that's when me and John started walking up there and checking it out. And I got 20 yards away from it, I realized that was a trail cam. Yeah, I felt like an idiot. I should have realized I'd put it there. But it happened in such a way, which can happen in this situation, things go out of perspective. Because when I got to thinking about it, but the activation range of the trail cam is around 60 feet. We were about 90 to 100 foot away from it. Why was the trail cam going off? Then I got to thinking about it. Logic tells me, since I was between the campfire and the trail cam, and John and Mary was over here on the other side of the campfire, each time I stood up to talk on the radio, me breaking that campfire was just enough to trigger the trail cam to cause that light to come on. That's the only thing I can figure out. And I'm going to stick with that because it's only estimated on these. I'm sure weird things can happen to cause them to come on like that. And it does coincide with when I was talking on the radio a few times. But then when I was pulling up the footage off of the next day, John was with me. He had my back every step of the way on that. You could see me walking up, checking on the trail cam. We're walking slowly. And John's back here. I can see his head coming. From behind. He had my back every step of the way on that one. I appreciate that. They're
Anytime.
there when you need it. If I was going to run, that good catch is going to be him anyway. I'm just picking John. Yeah, he was with me on that, but yeah, I could see his head coming out from behind me and stuff like that. I was going to get a main target on it. But you gotta have fun with it. Things happen, that's when you gotta rationalize and deduce what's happening, why is it happening if you can, and then a lot of things happen that you cause that you don't know you're happening. And I always tell people, if you're going to have equipment, you take it out there in the field, get to know the equipment before you go out there and try to use it. Once you get out in the field trying to figure stuff out, it's too late. You're just going to confuse yourself more and more and more as far as what may be happening. So if you get into stuff like this, learn what you got before you go. And that way it's going to help you to identify problems, solutions, or maybe you may not be able to identify anything. It's just going to raise more questions on why did it happen. But that's my life history. Hopefully he brought our graduation certificates today after 5 or 6 years to where we can go off on our own a little bit, right, Melissa? He's been good. He's a critical thinker, and he makes a lot of people mad at times because he sent me a photo the other day. What do you think of this? I said, well, it looks like a rock to me, a big tall rock. Well, he enhanced it a little bit to send it back. For people to swearing up down it was a Bigfoot. Once you enhance the picture a little bit, it could have been a large tree stump or maybe even a rock sitting. People got to realize that they're going to want to do stuff like this. They're going to post one picture, follow up and get another picture of that same area without it in it, with somebody in it to get some kind of depth to the picture, to what may or may not be there. Don't just post one picture and then everybody jumps to conclusions. knowing your equipment's another thing I try to tell people about. Real quick, just in case you get into stuff like this or don't know it, and you do use the stuff. When you're using trail cams, people's always complaining about pictures being fuzzy and stuff like that. Well, you gotta remember these trail cams, unless you buy a $5,000 trail cam, they come with real small sensors. If you don't understand how sensors work, that could be a problem for people. Like the Canon camera I got, my 5D Mark IV, it's got a 1-inch single sensor, 40 megapixels. You take that same 40 megapixels, 4 million megapixels, and try to compress that into a 2/3 sensor or 1/3 sensor, that means the diode is smaller, less light gathering, less information that they can pick up. You take that picture and try to blow it up, it's going to get grainy, it's going to get fuzzy, you're going to lose definition. When you understand little characteristics like that, it's going to help you enhance your research and what you're doing. The bigger the sensor, the clearer the picture, the more you can crop in, the more definition. But working with these little sensors, they're not designed for it. So give some people some kind of relief, I guess, where when people want to complain, well, the picture's all fuzzy, they don't understand how these little sensors work in these cameras. They do a good job, don't get me wrong, but when you take a picture, use a picture for what it is. You might be able to crop some, you start cropping too much, you're going to lose anything in it. Nothing about these trail cameras. The IR, glow or no glow, it doesn't matter. It puts out a beam. I think the no glow is, I think it's called like a black light type beam. That will reflect off of animals' eyes. People don't realize this. There's a photo I seen a couple of years ago on Facebook, one picture. People swearing up and down that there's a Bigfoot watching this raccoon out in front of the trail camera. The first picture they showed 3 pictures, raccoons off in the distance. You see these 2 little specks like eye shine just above the raccoon in the wood line. Next picture, the raccoon was about maybe 15, 20 feet from the trail cam when the trail cam triggered again. Those lights in the background of the first picture rose up a little bit, about maybe 3 or 4 foot off the ground. The third picture, it was almost right up on the trail cam, it triggered again. Now the lights are about maybe 7, 8 feet tall. Later, people say that was Bigfoot standing up watching this raccoon. As the raccoon gets closer to the trail cam, that triggering is going to move up when it records that flash of light on the people with the raccoon's eyes. Deception. I came back on there and said, no, that's just the IR reflecting off the movement of the raccoon coming towards the trail cam itself. All of it, people got mad about it. You have to understand how things work. That will reflect. And it will record on, if it's at the right angle, we'll record back onto the SD card in the trail cam. People don't understand stuff like that. Another picture was another Bigfoot. Take that picture, rotate it upside down with the eye shine, now you see deer antlers. It wasn't a Bigfoot. That was a deer. The camera which had reversed the picture when it took some our new phones do that for some reason. I take a picture and download it. That's all like my regular cameras. I have to flip the dang old thing around to get a normal perspective. Unless I'm doing something wrong, it could be I'm not high tech. You can tell these phones will stick those together when she lives on the phone. But again, just know the equipment and how they operate, and try to figure out why something happened. A lot of times we walk away. We were left last year, last summer, with more questions than what we have answers for. Things that multiple people experience that we don't have answers for. Yeah, you see it on TV. People take stuff on TV for granted. A lot of it is there for some hype, entertainment. And then when it happens to you in real life, that puts a different perspective on it. And you're still going to have your deniers, even though it happens to them, if they don't want to be taken out of the daily norm. There's things happening out there we don't know, we can't explain. And I'm going to get into this one part. You all hear about the scientists in the last couple of years becoming missing. And now the other one, the young guy, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, was part of the UFO thing on TV. Supposedly suicide.
Yeah.
I think something's going on there. Because what they get ready to come out with, they haven't already released it. It's a movie called Disclosure Day. Could all this stuff be leading up to releasing this movie? I don't know, I'm only speculating, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but when you try to piece together how and why things are happening, you may not know the answer, but it does raise questions on what is going on. Government knows things we don't, obvious. I can agree with that for the most part, especially with the Jupiter I have, but I think society's at the point now where if it would release stuff, yeah, you're going to have your people thinking it's going to be doom and gloom. But the majority of society is going to be able to accept it and move on and try to make the best of what's going on. Again, I'm going to drop that ball. We're not here for that. But again, know your equipment. Have fun when you're doing it. Get to know the area you go into. Take baby steps. If you want to get out there and get lost, I carry 2 forms of, most of the area know when we're back there, but I still carry the Garmin GPS 66i, electronic. And as a backup to that, back on the table, I still carry a compass. Now, with that piece of electronic goes out, I'm in unfamiliar territory, I still got my compass to get me relative back to where I need to go. Because trust me, when you're out there in the wilderness, especially in primitive areas, shading, lighting, shadows changes throughout the day. What may look familiar now, 20 minutes later coming back, it's going to look totally different. You don't need to get lost. Let people know where you're going. You know, be safe about it. John, you got anything to add as far as going back here?
I think you covered most of it.
As far as some of the stuff back at camp, was it just radios you was having problems with that evening?
Yeah, for the most part, radios. And what he means by that is, I get a radio full battery, and then I get a message from them, and then when they start talking again, the battery is dead. All right, and then I went back and got another radio, give it to my wife. Her battery went dead. All right, hers went dead. Mine came back online. All right, so I went back to David's radio because these are my 2 radios. Back to David's radio. All right, so mine's dead again now. All right, so when he calls us back, her radio sounds off in her chair with it off. She turned it off, put it in the chair, and zipped the chair. And it went off when David called us back. So how do you explain? And then the next day, now I did put the radios on charge, but they didn't take 3 minutes to charge. They were full. They would just, like the battery would drain, turn it off, wait a few minutes, and then come back on, you get your green light. But can't explain why her radio, her mic goes off, and her radio is in her zipped up pouch in the seat, in her chair.
But again, why didn't it happen? We never, the years we've been going back here, this hasn't happened before, now all of a sudden activities happen. There's a lot of explanations for that, which I'm not going to get into, so we don't know which path to go down on that. All we can do is continue going, put our equipment out, use it as best we can, gather what information we can while looking for Bigfoot. If the activity continues, then we'll just try to pursue it from there. I find it fascinating myself. I'm not going to be scared to shy away from it. Hopefully we can come up with some answers, at least for our own personal answers as far as what's going on back there. But whatever you get from us, it's going to be straightforward. We're not going to put any, as Biden would say, hyperbole into it, or whatever the case may be. It's going to be as it is. We don't have answers. And he's gone from 99.9% Bigfoot to almost 50-50 now, Bigfoot plus Paranormal. Because he's been a couple other places now, he's had a couple of things happen. Again, that's what we're coming from. Hopefully take something away from it. And maybe get involved yourself. Anybody here actually getting involved in any kind of paranormal and Bigfoot research? Anybody thinking about it? Good, this is about what everything. Yep. It's something to think about. If nothing else, even if you're sitting around the house, something happens. Let me just cover this right quick. I didn't bring the recordings because the video's not that good, and you never have to send them here anyway. About 3 years ago, we got our Shepherd Luna. We bought 2 inside cameras, cheap cameras, that we bring up on the phone and keep track of what's going on in the house. And Shepherds are Luckily, Luna wasn't like this for the most part, but when you leave, they can afford you from tearing things up. And we didn't want her and Scarlett, another little dog we had, I mean, 5 or 6 years old, tearing things up in the house while I was gone. That's all we got the cameras. But anyway, twice now, Melissa's had her hair touched in the house. We've had other things happen in the house that we're at, not just too long to get into. But I actually got it recorded. The first time I didn't believe her, I was on the computer. She was at the kitchen table, and she said something touched her hair. I said, yeah, right. It's on video. And you got to convince me anyway. Like I said, you got to convince me, okay? Well, I let it go. The next morning, I seen her on the computer and everything and whatnot. She's trying to take the SD card out of the camera. I said, what are you doing? Well, I want to see the foot. She don't touch my equipment. That woman does not touch my equipment. But sometimes it don't go back to where it needs to go and stuff like that. So I took the SD card out, put it in the computer, downloaded it, and now the doggone, if when you're watching it, this side over here, you see her hair come up. Wow. Like that, pull down. That's on video. I got it at home. Actually, I got it on a laptop. Actually, two back here, two light here in the middle. Because the cameras aren't that great. I blow it up a little bit in my editing program. You can see her hair come up, but when you blow it up, you see this white, what I call a little orb, appear out of nowhere. This side of her head, go up towards her head, disappears, and then that's when her hair came up. I don't know what that was or if that was called. I'm telling you, it's on camera. You see no bugs flying around underneath the lights or anything like that. That would take a pretty good sized bug to pull her hair up. Okay. The second time, a couple years later, here last summer, she's at the computer, I'm standing up by the TV looking at the guy and stuff. Something touched her hair again. This time, when I looked at the video, about the size of her hand, you can see her hair, she's looking at the TV's computer monitor, her hair shift. Very so slightly, she reacted to it. And the more you watch it, you see how her hair shifted. She reacted to it, paused a moment, then she asked if you could do it again, if you touch her hair, can you do it again? It didn't happen again after that, I don't think. But anyway, I got that on video where her hair moved, she reacted to it, and then a few seconds after she reacted to it, the video blinked out. It shifted to the right to left, but blinked out and came back on. The camera's never done that before. I don't know if that's a correlation with what happened with her hair. I have no idea. I'm just telling you what happened and what's on camera. We've had other things happen, but unfortunately, we did not have the cameras in the house at the time. We only had cameras there because of the dog. We wanted to save our house, and we just didn't want to work the ground. Fortunately, she didn't turn out to be one that destroyed stuff. But again, that's two things. So even if you're paying attention to what's going on in your house, take it for what it is and try to rationalize and come up with answers to what did happen. And you come up with an answer, maybe you won't. You won't wait, you will. But again, it's opened up our eyes to even more stuff, and that's why we're taking the direction that we're taking to try to find more answers as we go. Hopefully we can. And hopefully we get other researchers involved with us a little bit. Nothing's guaranteed when you go out. By golly, we had a hell of a summer last summer, I'm telling you now. And I don't know why it's happening. Maybe our minds are more open, susceptible, and people say that people find that we're receptive out there, we're not out, hoo-hawing and tear destroying stuff like that. We just have relaxing and going to company and going to wildlife and doing a little bit of research. And I don't know. Questions as far as that.
You guys have any questions for David or anything you talk to share?
If you got any questions on any of the equipment back there, feel free to ask. If you want it, I got a parabolic mic. I got that parabolic mic because he's got one. I had to have it.
Every time I buy a new piece of equipment, I share it with him. I said, look what I got. And he buys it. Oh, I got parabolic mic. Or if you see something he's interested in, this share will be open. I'll buy it first and then I'll test it if he wants to get it. It's a hell of a parabolic mic. It's really sensitive. I really love that thing. Very long range. I mean, I have I don't know what the one you call, I brought my cheap, I got mine with me too. I also have The other ones that say handheld, they're usually $35, $40, $45 ones. They're ones we hear up to 300 yards. Well, actually, they say 300 feet. So, but hey, come on in.
But the parabolic, I like because of you can get miles out of it. Again, you got to look at the conditions. Are you on open ground, ridge, mountain ridges around you, stuff like that? The sound travels through that, but it's clear. It's real sensitive. If you want to hear what it sounds like, you can turn it on. You put on the headphones to get some idea of what the parabolic light sounds like. I can do that for you if you want to hear what it sounds like. The rest of the equipment, a lot of self-explanatory. We got thermals, we have IRs, we got our, I like using omnidirectional microphones. A lot of microphones, recorders you buy, they are directional. You got a point in the direction that you want to get to have the best audio pickup. Omnidirectional, pick up 360 degrees. So we don't buy a lot of stuff. We try to rationalize about what we buy. So I'm not one to go out and spend $800 on a bunch of equipment you don't use it because you don't like it. I'll just take several weeks to research something before I actually make a purchase. And again, it's not expensive equipment, don't get me wrong. The one that I buy, this has been pieced together over the last couple of years. There's stuff out there you can utilize for it. And he hasn't sent me any text for a while, I think, but
I've been broke, I can't buy nothing.
that's the part you have to send me more than like about it. But again, we'll be back here if you got any questions on anything, feel free to ask. And if you want to hear what an actual parabolic sounds like. It is directional for the most part, but again, you got to remember that dome, any sound waves, it hits it, it's going to pick up and record. But you can tell from the sound if it's coming from the left or right or from the rear. If it's coming from the front, if I said it's got a directional mode for more distance, or I can move that mic in where it opens up more to pick up more sound. It's not so directional, but it's a great piece of